The date was March 31st, 1922. A chill hung over the isolated farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. The place felt heavy, burdened by an unseen weight. Neighbors, worried by the family's unexplained absence, approached the farmhouse. What they found would forever stain the idyllic Bavarian countryside. The door to the barn stood ajar. Inside, sprawled amidst the hay, lay the bodies of Andreas Gruber and his wife, Kazilia. Their daughter, Victoria, and her young child, Kazilia Jr., were found brutally murdered inside the house. The family's maid, Maria Baumgartner, lay lifeless in her bedchamber. Each victim had been killed with brutal efficiency, their skulls caved in by blows from a mattock. The scene was chaotic yet eerily silent. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood. The victims' faces, frozen in expressions of terror and agony, spoke volumes of the horror they had faced in their final moments. Hinterkaifeck, once a place of rural tranquility, was now a tomb. Hinterkaifeck stood alone, a solitary sentinel against the vast expanse of the Bavarian countryside. Fields stretched out from the farmstead, a patchwork of greens and browns stitched together by ancient hedgerows. The nearest village, Groben, was a considerable walk, especially in the depths of winter when snowdrifts could turn the roads treacherous. The isolation was palpable, a tangible presence that clung to the farmstead like morning mist. The Grubers were a private family, keeping to themselves even by the standards of rural life. Andreas Gruber was known as a stern, even harsh man. He was quick to anger and ruled his household with an iron fist. Their isolation was both a blessing and a curse. It provided a sense of peace and self-sufficiency, but it also left them vulnerable, cut off from the watchful eyes of neighbors and the protection of the wider community. In the wake of the murders, that isolation took on a sinister new meaning. It transformed from a source of tranquility into a breeding ground for fear and suspicion. The murders were not the work of a casual killer. They were personal, intimate. Each blow of the mattock was delivered with chilling precision, aimed at the most vulnerable part of the skull. The scene inside the farmhouse was one of unimaginable brutality. Little Josef, just 2 years old, was found lying next to his mother in her bed. He had been struck down in his sleep. The elderly maid, Maria Baumgartner, had only just arrived at the farm that day. She had likely walked in on the carnage, becoming the killer's final victim. Whoever committed these heinous acts was filled with a rage that defied comprehension. The killer had lingered at the farm, tending to the livestock and even eating food from the pantry. The question that haunted investigators was why? What drove someone to commit such a horrific act and then remain at the scene of the crime? The discovery of a chilling detail sent shivers down the spines of the investigators. There were signs that someone had been living in the attic above the farmhouse. A set of footprints in the snow led to the attic door, but none were found leading away. Food had been eaten and someone had been sleeping in the hay. The attic became the focal point of the investigation. It was a cramped, dusty space, filled with discarded furniture and forgotten belongings. It was a place of shadows and whispers where imagination could run wild. The thought of the killer hiding in the attic, watching and waiting, was almost too terrifying to contemplate. It meant that the murderer had not only taken the lives of the Gruber family, but had violated the sanctity of their home, turning it into a macabre prison. The attic became a symbol of the unseen horror that had descended upon Hinterkaifeck. The isolation of Hinterkaifeck, once a source of peace, now amplified the sense of dread. The farmhands who had worked for Andreas Gruber told stories of strange occurrences in the weeks leading up to the murders. They spoke of unexplained noises in the night, footsteps in the attic, the rustling of unseen presences. One farmhand claimed to have seen footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest to the farmhouse, but none leading back. Another spoke of a set of house keys that had gone missing, only to reappear days later in an unlikely spot. These whispers of strange events, dismissed as superstition at the time, now took on a chilling significance. They painted a picture of a family living in the grip of fear, their isolated world slowly being encroached upon by an unknown force. The stories added to the growing sense that Hinterkaifeck was not just a crime scene, but a place where something truly evil had taken hold. Section 6, Footprints in the Snow and Shadows of Doubt. The investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders was thorough but ultimately fruitless. The police meticulously documented the scene, collecting evidence and interviewing anyone who had even the slightest connection to the Gruber family. Footprints in the snow, the mattock found in the barn, and witness accounts all provided clues, yet none led to a definitive suspect. Theories abounded, fueled by rumor and speculation. Some whispered that Andreas Gruber had made enemies in the nearby town. Others pointed to a family feud over an inheritance. The possibility of a robbery gone wrong was also considered, but the killer had not taken any valuables from the farm. The lack of a clear motive only deepened the mystery. The killer had seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of questions and a community gripped by fear. The investigation, despite its best efforts, failed to pierce the veil of secrecy that shrouded Hinterkaifeck. Section 7, the Labyrinth of Suspects. Over the years, numerous suspects have been investigated in connection with the Hinterkaifeck murders. Each had their own potential motives, their own secrets, and their own connections to the Gruber family. Yet, each lead ultimately proved to be a dead end. One suspect was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a man who had allegedly fathered Victoria's illegitimate child, Josef. Gruber had forced Schlittenbauer to pay child support, creating a potential motive for revenge. However, no concrete evidence linked him to the crime. Another suspect was Carl Gabriel, a former soldier who had been seen near the farm around the time of the murders. Gabriel was known to be unstable and violent, but he was never officially charged. The case against him, like all the others, was built on circumstantial evidence and whispers. Section 8, an Unsolved Cipher. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The brutal efficiency of the killings, the chilling possibility of the killer living amongst the victims, and the lack of a clear motive continue to fascinate and horrify in equal measure. The case has been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and amateur investigations. Each new generation seeks answers, hoping to crack the code of Hinterkaifeck. Yet the truth remains elusive, locked away in the past. The passage of time has done little to diminish the power of this case. If anything, the lack of a resolution has only served to amplify its mystique. Hinterkaifeck stands as a stark reminder that even in the most tranquil of settings, darkness can lurk. Section 9. Hinterkaifeck's ghostly grip. The farmhouse at Hinterkaifeck was demolished a year after the murders. The land where it once stood remains untouched, a silent memorial to the tragedy that unfolded there. Locals say that the area is haunted, forever marked by the violence that took place within its borders. The story of Hinterkaifeck serves as a cautionary tale. It reminds us that evil can lurk in the shadows, even in the most idyllic of settings. It speaks to our primal fears of isolation, vulnerability, and the unknown. And so, the legend of Hinterkaifeck lives on, whispered around campfires and recounted in hushed tones. It remains a stark reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved, their secrets buried deep within the earth, along with the victims of a crime that time itself cannot erase.